Hey guys, Michelle here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about this beautiful herbaceous perennial Rexia virginica. Before I get to that, I have been thinking that I want to go ahead and start a newsletter so I can keep touch with all you gardeners that garden like I do outside of my videos. So if you wouldn't mind and you would want to be included in my newsletter, please send me an email with your name and your email and I will add you to that newsletter. I think that I'm probably going to do maybe once a month or once a quarter, so I won't be bothering you too much. But anyway, that was like the first announcement I wanted to make. So now we will get back to the Rexia virginica. Rexia virginica is a really uncommon native perennial and I really don't know why. I didn't even know about it until I think either last year or the year before. But anyway, this is it. This is Rexia virginica. That's the botanical name. The common names are Virginia Meadow Beauty, Handsome Harry, Meadow Pitchers, and Deer Grass. So you're probably wondering why in the world I would plant anything with the common name of deer grass, but it was just, when I discovered it, it was just so beautiful, and this area is really wet and in the front is sunny, and I thought it would just be beautiful. And it's right in my front, like right in front of my front porch. So the deer will come up here, but they don't come up here as much as they do other areas of my yard. And I have been diligent about spraying with deer stopper. If you want to try out deer stopper, I will put an affiliate link to Amazon below, which supports my channel, and it is really the best spray that I have used, and I have tried them all. So the plant, it grows about 1 to 2 feet tall. It blooms in mid to late summer, and it will bloom for about a month or maybe 2 max. Mine have been blooming for about a month now, and the seed pods are forming, but I am still getting blooms. The stalk of this plant can be used in cut flower arrangements, and not only are the flowers beautiful to use in arrangement, but also the stalks with the dried seed heads and dried fruit. Okay, so as far as physical characteristics go for this plant, again, it will grow 1 to 2 feet tall. It has these extremely showy rose pink to deep pink flowers. They have 4 petals and they're about 1 inch to 1.5 inches wide. Then the thing that really makes them even more spectacular to me, other than the beautiful color of the flowers and them being so showy, is these 8 stamens that jut out from the petals, and they are bright yellow, and it's just like incredible looking. It makes them look slightly Dr. Seuss-ish, very unusual, and just one of the reasons why I really love this plant. And one thing I forgot to mention, those stamens, they shoot out from the flower petals, and the anther on the very end is shaped like a sickle. So just super cool all the way around. As far as the stems go, are light green. And then at the nodes, they are a purplish green color, which is very attractive. And the stems are slightly hairy. The leaves are opposite, so that means there are 2 leaves per node, and they're completely opposite of each other. And the leaves have an ovalish or lance leaf shape to them. So another really cool part about this plant is when the seed heads emerge, and they go from green to a purplish red to a copper color before they get really brittle and are ready to self-seed. Also, something really unique or interesting about the seed heads is they were once described by Thoreau to look like little cream pitchers, which I think is a cute little description for them. Growing conditions for this plant, like I mentioned before, are wet. They like wet areas, and this place in my front yard, right in front of my front porch, is a wet area. It's also very sunny right here, mosquito. It's also very sunny right here in the front of the border, and that's why I have these in the front, and they are in front of more shade-loving plants like my inkberries and my cardinal flower, because this is an odd area where the rim of my porch really cuts that light off. So I basically have full sun that meets shade. So they do really well here in the front of this front porch border. If you are growing Meadow Beauty, Virginia Meadow Beauty in your landscape, just know that in drier times, if these plants aren't planted in a wet area, more of like maybe a medium area, then you will need to water them. Again, they are a wet, moist, loving plant. Now, one of my favorite parts of my native plant spotlights is making sure that I understand how to propagate plants, because I love propagating native plants. It's like one of my things, one of my favorite things. So these plants readily self-seed themselves. So they grow in colonies, and I'm hoping they will self-seed all over this area. Also, the seed heads are a little bit sticky, so they will attach to animals passing by, so that their seeds will be distributed as those animals walk about. For seed saving, when you see the seed heads start to get that brownish color and brittle, what I would recommend doing is getting a brown paper bag, putting it upside down over the stalk, maybe tilting it a little bit to the side, cutting that stalk, and then flipping it over upright so that any seeds that are ready to be released spill down to the bottom of that paper bag. The next thing you want to do is to take the contents of that paper bag, put it somewhere dry inside, and let it air dry for a couple days. After a couple days and those seeds have been air dried, then you want to put them in an airtight sealed container in the refrigerator for about 2 to 3 months. Okay, so as for sowing the seed, I can't say from personal experience what works the best, and I'm saying that because I've purchased seeds and I've done them a couple different ways, I believe, and I haven't had much luck. And I haven't taken any records. So what I am going to cold stratify them outside, number one. Okay, and that means that I am going to I'm going to sow them in deep cell flats in the beginning of November and let them sit outside for all of winter. Number two, I am going to store the seeds in the refrigerator like I was talking about, and then I am going to sow them indoors in January without any cold, moist stratification. They will have been in the refrigerator for a couple months, but they won't have that moist part of the stratification. And then the third way I am going to try and germinate these seeds is to actually do the cold, moist stratification, which I have a video about how I do that, and I'll put that above, in a card above if you want to watch it. And I'm going to record which way I get the best results. So stay tuned for that next spring. So while I am going to germinate some of the seeds that I collect outside, most of them I am going to germinate inside. And that's because I have this book, Growing and Propagating Wildflowers by Harry R. Phillips. I will link it below. And this is one of my most used books on native plants in my library, and I have a lot of them. So anyway, I'll link to this below. If you're interested in propagating native plants, then this is definitely a book to have in your library. And anyway, my point being is that in the book it specifically says to sow indoors and to grow it indoors over the winter, because the seeds are so small they can be easily washed away outside, like in a garden bed. So I'm definitely going to do the majority of my seeds indoors. I have found there are natives that I have much better luck with indoors, and so I'm thinking this may be one of them. So stay tuned to next spring, and I'll let you know what the results are. But yeah, definitely growing 2/3 of them indoors. And with those seeds that I grow indoors, this book was specific to note that the roots do not like to be disturbed. So when you go to pot them up, meaning when you go to take them from their smaller pots and put them into larger pots, the recommendation is to pot them up in clumps. So say I'm sowing in like a 10 by 10 flat with no separation, I'm going to sow those seeds there. And then when it comes time to pot them up into like 3-inch pots, I am going to like look for the clumps, and I'm going to dig out that whole clump and pot it up, versus trying to mess with a lot of the roots. You don't want to do that. And then when the plants get even bigger and ready to maybe go outside, that's when you can disturb the roots a little bit and try and pull them apart from each other, but just be careful when you do so. Now, wildlife. Another one of my favorite parts about talking about native plants. So this plant is cross-pollinated by bumblebees. It can't be pollinated by honeybees, which are not native to the US, just so you know, because they don't perform buzz pollination. And maybe I'll put some videos in here or whatever of where I've recorded buzz pollination. It's so cool because the bumblebees are so loud, and what they do is they're buzzing something in their throat. That buzzing shakes the stamens, and what happens is it forces the pollen to be released from the anther. I have seen bumblebees on these plants since they first started blooming. And the other wildlife item to note about Virginia Meadow Beauty is it is the host plant to the large lace border moth. And if you don't know what a host plant is, it is a plant where butterflies will lay their eggs on that plant. And when those eggs hatch, those caterpillars come out of those eggs, that plant is what those caterpillars eat. And they can't just go on any plant. So a lot of those associations are very, very specific. And in this case, Virginia Meadow Beauty is a host plant for the large lace border moth. Okay, so finally, why should you grow Virginia Meadow Beauty? So if you're not going to grow it now after everything that we've talked about it, let me just reiterate. First, this plant can be used in your front yard landscape. I have it here, right here in front of my front porch, and I think it looks really nice. It is a shortish plant. It can go at the front of the border and staying tidy enough for me to keep it in the front yard. Second, this plant is so showy. I have spent a lot of time up here trying to photograph, trying to video this plant, and also just watching the bumblebees on this plant and looking at the beauty. So it's just, aesthetics for the eyes, beauty for the eyes. It's a beautiful plant to have in your landscape and visit and look at, and yeah. Third, I mentioned it once before, but I have read that Meadow Beauty is a fantastic plant for cutting. The stalks are pretty thick and the blooms are so showy and unusual, and people even use stems of the seed heads in cutting arrangements because they are so unusual. And remember, Thoreau actually made a comparison to those seed heads as little cream pitchers. Finally, the fourth reason why I think that you should plant or you should grow this plant in your yard is because of the buzz pollination factor. I have done a couple things on buzz pollination this season. I think it's so cool, so fun to watch, just, something that you can introduce your kids to. So definitely the fourth reason why I would grow this plant is because of the buzz pollination. Okay guys, so that's all I am going to talk about concerning the Meadow Beauty today. I hope you got something out of my video. If you would like me to do a video on a specific native plant, I'd love to hear from you below, letting me know. Also, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, please email me. I believe my email is on the YouTube. If not, I will make sure, but it's 90percentnative@gmail.com, all written out. And finally, again, highly recommend this book, Growing and Propagating Wildflowers. I will put an affiliate link if there is one for this, and affiliate links will support my channel, just so you know, in case you want to, in case you want to support my channel. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for spending your time with me. I hope you have a fantastic Nat. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next time.